it's Mike here, and welcome to a new stream series that I'm going to be calling PGP, or Pretty Good Plays. I'm going to be playing games that I know fairly well, but it's not like I'm a speedrunner or anything. I make mistakes. I'm going to die. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be pretty good. So we're just going to dive right in here with the first video in our series, which is going to be for good old Mega Man. Let's see. Go. Start with Gutsman. So, the reason that I wanted to do a series of videos like this is that not only have I been playing Mega Man for about 30 years at this point, I've also played these games a whole bunch lately because my son fell in love with the series and he just makes me play them over and over again. And I don't always get to choose which one we play, so I've kind of gone through all the classic games like 5 to 12 times in the last year, let's say. As well as some of the less classic games, 7, 8, 9, and 10 a handful of times also. But at least when it comes to the first 3 to 6 Mega Man games, I got a pretty decent idea what I'm doing. And so I just thought it'd be fun to do some streaming here. You might notice that I've actually gone to the trouble of setting up a layout, and I have stuff like a couple counters there on the bottom. And those were going to be to test out my brand new mini Stream Deck, which is a thing that I think is really cool and fun to play with. Except that during all my testing, I was using a different emulator, and it turns out that for some reason this emulator is not compatible with the Stream Deck for incrementing my counters. So if I want to do something like tell you that this music is very good, I'm going to have to increase the jam count, and I'll have to do that manually by clicking over here, which is kind of a pain, but it should be pretty transparent for all of you. So give me 2 seconds just to make sure that the stream is actually functioning as intended, and it's got sound and stuff, and then we'll be good to go. Sound and stuff. Alright, I think we are good to go. So, Gutsman. The reason to take Gutsman first, you don't have to take Gutsman first, right? All you really need to do in this game is beat Cutman before Electman, and ideally Gutsman 2, and that way you can get the Magnet Beam the first time you go through the level and actually beat Electman. Because, I don't know about you, but without the cut scissors, whatever they're called, I am not going to beat Electman on my first try. Gotta hope. Yes. I'm starting to think this guy always starts with 2 high hops. I'm not 100% sure on that. Yeah, so you need the cut shears, or whatever they're called, to beat Electman, and you need either Elect Beam or the Gutsman throw ability to get the Magnet Beam. Otherwise, you got to replay the whole level to pick it up. And there's no reason to not start with Gutsman, because you might as well face him with your basic pea shooter, and you might as well get the platforming challenge of those tough platforms out of the way at the start of the game. Why the heck not? Now, that said, I don't have what you call a foolproof plan for beating Gutsman. He's not super hard. It does make things really confusing, the way he's always locking you down with the ground shake. If you're not close to him, I've learned that it's actually best to just let him shake the ground and then jump over the blocks that he throws when you recover from the stun. Otherwise, just gonna hope that he doesn't spend too much time sitting on you and just peck away with him with your gun, and you should be fine. Like so. So, like, canonically, I would normally start the game by playing Cutman stage because it's, pretty easy and you get a decent weapon out of it, but you don't use that weapon at all for Gutsman stage. So why not get something kind of tricky out of the way right away? Speaking of Cutman, let's go pay him a visit. So, Mega Man 1 is definitely the odd duck, ugly duckling of this series. I still like it. I think it's got some charm. I think it's actually got some qualities to it. Among other things, it's got some pretty sweet music. So let's kick the jam count up one time there. Cutman stage theme is one of the better ones. Not my favorite, but one of the better ones. These guys are so... Oh, wow. Free guy. So, you don't get a whole lot of free guys in the original Mega Man compared to some of the later ones. 2 and 5 in particular just hand them out like candy. It's kind of crazy. In Mega Man 1, you can continue, so it's not too big of a deal if you lose your lives, but you have to be a little more careful. So it's nice to get a free one off the drop like that. I used to be super meticulous about shooting all these turrets when I was younger, and now I don't bother as much. If I think I can get by them without getting shot, I'll just run. So yeah, Mega Man 1. It's a clunky game. I think the biggest strike against it, really, for me, is the physics, which are just not the way they are in all the other Mega Man games. You got a lot more inertia in this game. So you don't stop on a dime, and oh, that's a real shame right there. You don't stop on a dime. You're much more likely to go flying off of a hole, flying down a hole, into a hole, because you drifted off an edge when you landed from a jump. And that's especially annoying. There's a spot in Dr. Wily's castle where you can pick up health power-ups, and then you just kind of keep running, and you wind up running yourself right into a hole. And it's not a good scene. I should know better than to deal with these guys. You can mostly ignore them. Those are octopus batteries, and I think their official Japanese name is... They're not Lazy Susans or something Susies. Lazy Susan is what you use to get like the fish sauce from the back of the drawer when you haven't touched it in 4 months. Yeah, so the first game, it's clunky. It doesn't play great. It's extremely unfair in a few spots, as we will see a little later on. But I also think it's really charming. I think that some of the Robot Master designs in the first game are super iconic. And maybe that's just me, like, rewriting history because the game went on, like, the series went on to be super iconic, and maybe they're not good designs, but, like, I think Gutsman's got a super cool design. I think Cutman's got a really fun design. But I realize as I'm saying that, you know, we might have also made fun of Cutman if he'd been in Mega Man 5, right? Because he's pretty dopey looking. But dopey in a fun way. It's also the game that gets the elements, right? It's the one that has fire, ice, and electricity, as well as the elements of bomb, scissors, and guts. But, you know, it's got Fireman, it's got Iceman. I suppose one could take offense at the fact that Iceman is like a caricature of, you know, the northern peoples. Oh, thank you. Let me just take a second to say these plunger guys, and some variant on these plunger guys, are in almost every Mega Man game. And the ones in the first game are pretty mean just because they hit so hard. They are not the worst, as we will see later on if I continue this series. There are worse. Okay, I'm supposed to be able to... Sorry. I'm supposed to be able to just knock those things out if I jump and shoot. The timing on this is a little different. I've been playing these games on my NES Classic. Don't ask me how, but all 6 of them are on there. And so the controller is just a little bit different, and... oh, come on, Cutman. So, you know, just nailing some of the little things is going to be a little different until I get used to playing this on the emulator. I'm using an Xbox One controller, which has a reasonable D-pad, but it's not quite as good as the one that I've been using on my NES Classic. There we go. Cutman is kind of a chump. I think most of the Mega Man games have a boss who you can more or less just walk into the room and press the shoot button until they die, and Cutman is definitely your first guy in this game for that, although Bomb Man comes close. What's nice about beating Cutman like that is that his weapon is actually kind of useful. It's got a decent arc to it. It beats Electman, and it takes out a couple of really annoying enemies, kind of like these guys. There we go. I'm going to maybe exercise a little bit of player's privilege here, and I'm going to say that this is also a jam. You may not agree. That's fine. You know, you're allowed to have your opinions on things. But I like the music in this level, and I like it also because it reminds me of the theme song to Mask Crusaders, or Mask, I guess it was just called, which was a kind of stupid cartoon show that was on in the 80s when I was a kid. Right around the time I would have been playing Mega Man. Hello, my controller just stopped responding. Apparently it's also more or less the same as an REM song, but I'm not familiar with that particular REM song, even though I have listened to a fair amount of REM in my days. These little flying saucer guys spawn in groups of 3 on each side, and they don't actually respawn. If you clear out a room, then they don't come back. Didn't time it right. This is Baby's first disappearing block segment. That said, I'm sounding pretty confident, but there have been a couple hitches in the gameplay, so I hope that I'm not setting myself up for some embarrassment later on. This is supposed to be a pretty good play, not a pretty terrible play. This energy ball, not worth it. Even if you really need it, I think the chances of you getting out of there without falling down a hole are pretty poor. You won't have the magnet beam, because if you had the magnet beam, then why would you be there, right? Because you don't... So this is a little bit annoying that third guy shows up on the ladder, but now that I've cleared these guys out, they're going to leave me alone. So this level is a real pain if you don't have something to clear out the slidey Jughead crowns. So it's very nice to start with the cut blade here. I need to save some for the boss, but I feel like it's worth it to spend a few on these guys. There's really not a lot going on in this. Oh, so these guys, okay. I thought for a second there was actually nothing happening here. That was naive. These jumps are tricky. They give you just barely enough headroom to make it. Especially there's the ones at the very beginning of the level, which are spaced out farther apart. It's really easy to bump your head on those. So since I have Cut Blade, I just use it to clear the enemies out and save my time. And we've got the Magnet Beam. So before there were items 1, 2, and 3, and before there was Rush, there was the Magnet Beam, which is your kind of mobility enhancement for Mega Man 1. And I believe it is 100% necessary to finish the game. Yes, because there's a spot in Dr. Wily's castle that you can't get through without it. But it's also effectively necessary to finish the game, because there's this just complete, utter nonsense segment in Iceman's stage where you have to jump over tons of pits using platforms that are also enemies that are also shooting at you that also have poor collision detection. So I basically consider it mandatory to get the Ice Beam before playing that stage. I can be prideful sometimes when I play a Mega Man game. Mega Man 2, for example, is a game where I'm very proud of the fact that I can start on pretty much any stage and, you know, make good progress in that game. Mega Man 1 is a game that is hard and occasionally weird enough that I'm just not going to make my life difficult. And we're going to see this again later when we get to a certain very infamous boss. Oh, thank you. So glad that guy. So I don't think there's any way that you can guarantee a clean passage underneath the big stompy guys. I just kept getting lucky there by just assuming the second hop would be a high one, but there's no way to know that, and by the time you see the hop, I don't think you can make it underneath. So it's basically just like a health tax before you fight the boss, which is kind of a pain. It just means that a lot of the time you go in with less than full health, which in some cases means probably sacrificing your first attempt at the boss. Depends who we're talking about, but Elect Man is a son of a bitch. Interesting thing to note about Mega Man 1 is the only game where the weapon that you have equipped has an impact on how much damage you take from the enemies. So I don't know if you noticed, but I just lost a whole chunk of my health to that Elect Shot because I have the Cut Blades equipped, which damage Elect Man more. And I think something similar happens if you're using Elect Beam to beat Iceman, which is what we're probably going to go and do right now. Boop. Once you have the Magnet Beam and the Elect Beam, there's no reason not to go to Iceman's level. He gives you a weapon that's actually pretty good. Overall, the weapon selection in Mega Man 1 is not bad. I would say that of the 6 weapons you get, like, 3 of them are good, and 1 or 2, you know, beyond that are either useful or at least, you know, slightly better than just using the pea shooter. Everything with the bombs, really. I don't think I'm going to give this level a jam. It's not, the music's not bad, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence for this one. I want the jams to mean something, you know? We got some good jams coming up later on, too, so I don't feel like I'm ready to just start handing them out willy-nilly. I mean, if this series gets to Mega Man 2, it's just going to be jams left and right. Boop. Whoa. I don't remember the game getting that slow normally, so... I've messed around with a couple of emulators before I started this series, including one that played nicely with my Stream Deck and let my counters work properly. Now I'm using Nestopia, not even a very recent version of Nestopia, because I felt that it played better overall than the other one I tried, which was Mezen, which apparently is like the new hotness for NES emulators. But I felt like it was slowing down in places, but this is also slowing down in places, so who knows. I'll give it a shot, and if I don't like this, then I'll make some changes. Okay, I need to take a second here and remember how this works. I gotta come down here. So there's going to be a low one. Yeah. And there's that one. Oop, I'm in the block. And there we go. Okay, so this is the infamous spot in Iceman stage that you're just not getting through here if you don't have the Magnet Beam, you know? And even if you do have the Magnet Beam, it's pretty easy to screw this up. The magnet platforms don't last quite as long as I would... Oh, geez, I'm in bad shape now. That's really bad. That's really bad. Okay. Good, good. That could have gone much worse. Yeah. I would just never tell anyone to try and play this level without the magnet beam, unless they were some kind of speedrunner or just trying to prove a point. I don't think I've ever cleared that section. Woo! Second health was high again. I'm starting to wonder if that's a pattern. I've never cleared that section without the magnet beam, I don't think. Someday I will drop a save state there. Oh, nice moonwalking. I'll drop a save state and I'll give it a couple tries and see if I can actually get through. But without the magic of save states, that's just a nightmare of bad collision detection and getting hit and falling through stuff you shouldn't. Alright, here comes Iceman. I think Iceman is kind of tough, but once you've got his weakness, it ain't no thing. I will just point out that this is the Mega Man game where the enemy attacks stay on the screen after you kill the Robot Masters, and they can still kill you. So, try to avoid them. It's also the only Mega Man game that has points, and there's basically no reason why it should have points, but it does. Because video games in, I don't know if this is 87 or 88, they had points. Alright, Fireman. So, the one guy I have left after Fireman is Bombman, and normally Bombman was my go-to, like, starting boss, because he's really easy. But it turns out that bombs are super useless. There's just, like, really nothing you can do with them. Like, they're not even really good against Gutsman. I would say that 9 times out of 10 I take more damage using the bombs against Gutsman than just using the regular Mega Buster. Ouch. So, yeah, they're slow, they're clunky, they don't destroy blocks. So you can beat Bombman, and it's good as that like little moral victory to kind of make you feel like you're making headway into a Mega Man game. You always need that first boss. But now that I know what I'm doing, I don't really, I don't see the point. I'm not even going to bother getting that health. You don't have to go up here to get this stuff, but I have the magnet beam, so what the heck, eh? You can also use the ice slasher to freeze those flamey platforms. And then stand on them, which is fun. But you won't need to do that until the Dr. Wily stages. Oop. I'm pretty sure I can make it through there without getting hit. There you go. A little bit of, oops, I missed the health. Who cares? There's a little flame platform here. Watch that. I love this part. Ready? Wah! We're fine. That's a hidden platform there. And in fact, you can see it when you drop down. I don't think there's any other time in the Mega Man games when that happens. One of the nice things about taking care of Elect Man relatively early in the game is that you then can abuse Elect Beam for the rest of the game, because Elect Beam is sick. It's so good. People talk about how overpowered the Metal Blades are and how they wreck the bounce of Mega Man 2, but A, if you, I guess you feel that way, it's because you hate fun, and B, the Elect Beam did it first. Like, Elect Beam is super powerful, it's huge, it fires in 3 directions, it uses almost no energy. It is, like, clearly the second best weapon in the Mega Man series. The only one that I could even consider putting in that slot, aside from the like beam, is maybe the Jewel Shield from Mega Man 9, which is by far the best of the shield weapons. But you know what they say, the best defense is shooting things with electricity. A whole bunch. Alright, here we are. I can probably beat Elect Man on this much health. Fireman, I should say. Is this a jam? We gotta kind of decide this right now. I'm gonna go with yes. It's got a good beat. It's not like the jammiest jam for sure, but it's alright. I don't need weapon energy, I need health. So Fireman, I think you could probably beat with the regular Mega Buster, probably just by standing and shooting, but since I'm missing some health, I have to be a little more careful. I say a little bit because I don't think I've ever beaten this fight without taking at least that many hits. In fact, that may be the least hits I've ever taken during this fight. So, go me. I gotta say, I don't want to toot my own horn, but so far, this play is pretty good, right? That's what we're here for. I had popped out a browser with the Twitch chat. Is there any chat? There's no chat. Next, last, is Bombman. And now, my friends, we are entering the realm of the Super Jam. I'm just going to go ahead and click this right now because this is the best song in this game. I love it so much. Fleas. These little flea enemies are, I think, unique to this game. I don't know if they ever got... like, Mega Man 7 and 8 did a lot of, like, nostalgia mining, and kind of making 16 and 32-bit versions of sprites from the old games. And like Rockman and Forte did stuff like that too, but I don't think they ever reused the little flea guys. Right, so now let's just use Elect Beam all the time. It's so good. I could go get that energy for it, but I don't need to because it uses so little. This is not really a very good use of my Elect Beam energy, but what the hell, whatever. Ooh. Yeah, okay, I probably should not have bothered with that. So, one interesting thing about Mega Man 1 is that it only has 6 Robot Masters, as opposed to the 8, which has become the series standard. It also only has 1 castle, which I really like. And you put those together, you get a game that even I can finish in under an hour, which is pretty nice, very brisk. I'm going to complain about this in the future, but I'm not a fan of the multi-castle designs of Mega Man 4, 5, and 6. I think that's just too much castle. I also don't like them because historically you had to play those levels all in one sitting, which is not really true like in the modern day and age. But it used to really bother me because I just didn't like to have to commit to that much Mega Man in one sitting. I've always loved that these games are light and breezy, even though they're hard. You know, you dive in, you got 8 robots, you don't really know which way to go, you pick a fight, you see if you can get through the stage, you see if you can beat the robot master. And like there's that kind of feeling of building your way up and like, oh, okay, this stage is too hard, or I got to the boss but he's too difficult, and then you finally crack the code and you beat one, and then you get your password and you come back and you play it again some other day. And I love the bite-sized nature of these games that you get, and the fact that you can tackle them in any order. So then you get to like the Dr. Wily stages, and it's like, oh, now you have to do a bunch of stages in a row, and they're hard, and there's no passwords, and it just kind of rubs me the wrong way. It's not what I'm looking for. So there have definitely been a lot of times when I've played through all the Robot Master stages and then just stopped the game at the Dr. Wily Castle, because it's my least favorite part of these games usually. There we go. Okay, I don't have a lot of health, but Bomb Man is a pushover. Especially when you've got his weakness. Oh, also, of course, Mega Man 1, the only game in the series that has long hallways with bad guys in them. More or less. There's a couple exceptions. They start playing around with the hallways in like later Mega Man games, and some of the X games have like weird hallways. Oh, come on, just hold still. So Bomb Man here is pretty easy to beat at the best of times. The fire does extra damage, and the fact that it spins around you and gives you a shield is also pretty nice. And that's it. We've cleared out all of the Robot Masters. It's time to make our way to Dr. Wily's castle. Which, as I said just a couple seconds ago, I'm not like super into these levels. But again, at least they're short in this game. 200,000 points. Look at how many points that is. Here's our first incidence of the Dr. Wily saucer. It's not blue like it is in all the rest of the games. It's got this kind of fuchsia thing going on. And here we are. The run up to the castle is just a long field filled with stompers. And that's where the Ice Slasher comes in handy. There's not really any point in killing these guys once you're underneath them, because at this point you've got full energy and you're not likely to get any lives from them, so why bother? You know, I didn't do that right. Okay, this is still not... Oh, I made it. Okay. That's a really tight squeeze, and just banging your head on one of those guys will cost you about a third of your life. So, oh, didn't mean to do that. Dr. Wily Castle, as usual, is filled with things that require you to use all the weapons in the game to make progress, which is kind of funny because, I mean, clearly you've got them by the time you get here. Like, I don't know if they were trying to fend off people with Game Sharks or if they just wanted to make you feel special, that you had all the weapons. So we've got our requisite guts blocks, we've got the Ice Slasher fire pillars. You don't have to use the Ice Slasher on the stompers, but it sure is the best way to deal with those guys. Nice. Yeah, here we have some fleas. So, fun fact, you can destroy these blocks with Elect Beam. Normally I don't, because I don't have anything better to do with the guts ability, the guts throw, whatever you want to call it. And I'd rather save my Elect Beam for more useful stuff, but sometimes I'm also just too lazy to change away from a weapon. Okay. Whoop. Don't want to get knocked into those spikes because in Mega Man 1 there is no invincibility. You get spiked, and that's just the way it is. Speaking of spikes, here's a bunch. Oh boy. That. Hey, good job, me. So there we go. That's our first death. Let's increase that death counter by 1. Thankfully, I died at a spot right by a save point. Less thankfully, as I've used up some of my magnet beam energy. I've still got enough to make it across the gap, but I'm going to have to be a little careful now. Alright. So, like, first of all, I just appeared into this screen and lost some health. Thanks for that. Second of all, these guys suck and they follow random patterns. Third of all, I need to get some energy for my magnet beam for this screen. Well, the only saving grace here is that the energy in Mega Man 1 respawns when you leave the screen, so you can just go up and down the ladder. I'm going to do this one more time as a safety, and then we'll call it a day. So now I need to make a bunch of magnet platforms to get up through here. So you can't finish the game without getting the magnet beam, but you can't get the magnet beam unless you have the Guts Throw or the Elect Beam, which can also break those blocks. But you might be saying to yourself, well, how am I going to have the Elect Beam when I'm in Elect Man stage? And the answer is, you can run the stages more than once, which is something you cannot do in most of these games. I think like around 5 or 6 they added the ability to come back to stages. But in Mega Man 1 you can, so you have to deal with either Guts Man or run Elect Man stage twice to get the Magnet Beam before you can come here. And speaking of Dr. Wily's castle, this is it. The Yellow Devil. And I'm going to give this the old college try, but chances are I'm going to resort to cheating here because this is pretty tough. It sounds like the cat wants to come in. Great, thanks cat, good job. Yeah, you know what? Forget it. I'm not too proud. This guy is really hard. The pattern to get past him is not that complicated, but it's very fast. And so you have very little time to react. I'm sorry, my cat just jumped into the room and is probably going to talk a little bit, and he's definitely blocking my screen. Move out of the way, cat, please. Yeah, you don't have much time to react to his pattern. In particular, there's one place where you got to make like a short hop there. Oh, I did it. Hey, cool. Okay, the cat is still in front of the screen. That's super great. He's really helping me out here. Yeah, took a hit anyway. And so we're going to use... the pause trick. And in fact, I'm a little bit worried that even with the pause trick, I may not win this fight. There we go. The famous pause trick. And Mega Man 1 is also the only game in the series that has a pause button that is not the menu button. So you press select instead of start and it pauses the game, and when it does, enemies lose their invulnerability. Actually, it's not that dissimilar to what happens in Blaster Master if you pause the game when you're like grenading a boss. Although as far as I'm aware, it doesn't... I think actually, yeah, Mega Man can take multiple hits from the same projectile if you pause and unpause the game repeatedly. Anyway, its most famous use is for dealing with the Yellow Devil, who is really hard. I have beaten him legitimately one time in my entire life. He's very, very difficult, and if you die, it's pretty annoying because you have to go a ways back, back to the save point where I came back after I fell on the spikes. And that means that you need to, you know, farm a bunch of magnet energy, and who needs that? And, oh geez, this could be going a little better. You need to farm magnet energy, and there's no guarantee that you're going to show up at the boss with full health, which is pretty rough considering how hard he is. So, like, I'm not going to say it's completely unfair. It is possible to beat the Yellow Devil legitimately, but that's another roadblock that most players are going to find probably a little more challenging than they really want to put up with. What can I say? You know, it's an old game. I still love it, but it's not always great. So, I'm trying to remember who's next here. There's a little invisible platform here I'm just jumping over. I believe Elect Man's down here. Like a lot of bosses in the Mega Man games, you will find that Elect Man is significantly easier to deal with when his floor is flat. In the original version of his stage, there are a couple of those guts blocks that make it uneven, and it makes it really dang hard to avoid his projectiles. Speaking of projectiles, we're just going to try to stay away from these bomb guys. I don't think I can destroy them, and I don't want to get knocked down that hole because I haven't made it to the checkpoint yet. There's a fairly tough boss fight at the end of this level, And I expect I'll probably use up my next life there, unless I get lucky and have a whole bunch of energy by the time the fight starts. So I want to make sure I make it to the checkpoint. Don't want to waste any lives. Just wait for those guys to line up. I'm just being a little bit frugal with my elect beam right now. Well, a little bit. Because I'm going to need it for the boss fight, but it's also very useful for clearing out all these octopus batteries. Oh, that didn't quite... Ah, dang it. So what I should have done... Actually, I guess I can't wait there because the ladder disappears. Oh, no, we can. This is just fun. Whee! Good stuff. So like I said, energy comes back as you leave rooms in Mega Man 1, but I can't actually farm that energy there because this ladder doesn't make it down to the next room, which I'm guessing is intentional. It's annoying, though. Ugh. Yeah, so I'm not expecting a whole lot out of this fight, but I have enough Elect Beam that I'll give it a shot. This is the Mega Man clone. He's unpredictable and kind of dangerous. My personal technique for dealing with him is to use Elect Beam and basically just try to stun lock him into the corner. But whether I can actually pull it off before he empties the half of my health that I have left is anyone's guess. Because he basically is gonna, if you're using Elect Beam, he's gonna get that first shot off on you. And he does a lot more damage per hit than I do. Also, I'm firing too quickly. You need to give him enough time for his invincibility to wear off. Alright, that's fine. I was not expecting to get through there without taking a hit. Whoops, speaking of taking a hit, let's not take any more than we have to. Oh yes, got that health back, good. Alright, take two. The cat is being in the way and annoying, but also good for morale boost. All this purring is really making me feel like I have a chance. Try not to lean on my stream deck and stop the stream, okay, cat? Alright, let's see here. We'll get a zap. And then from this point on, you want to just do like short hops, basically. It doesn't work if he walks right into you. I'm not going to be happy if I die here. Again, I mean. Did I get him? I got him. Phew. If I'd lost another life there, I think would have had to downgrade this to a passable play. PPP? Doesn't have a good ring to it. So, on to the next part of the castle. This is what I would say is an absolute filler stage. There's really nothing exciting happening here. I mean, it's kind of fun because there's a pipe full of water later on. You ever notice how Mega Man enemies give you weapon energy just constantly, except when you actually really need it? Nah. This is annoying, but I think my best bet is just to run through. I'm out of Elect Beam, which is what I would normally use to try and clear these guys out. Alright, welcome to the hallway. I just don't want to get hit by the octopus batteries because they take off a big chunk of health, whereas the shots from those turrets don't do much. So my technique here, very advanced. Shoot these guys and hope that they drop health. One or two of these guys can drop me a little health, then I'll be in good shape for the boss fight, which is not like a super difficult boss. At least unless you screwed up the first time. Now we're going to trade penguins for bombs. So you really don't want to be running forward at this point because when the bombs start exploding, you'll take damage from them. I'm not going to bother trying to switch over to collect weapon energy from these guys because it's just clunky enough that I don't think I can make it in time, and then it throws off my shooting pattern, and then I get exploded by a bomb guy, and it's just a bad scene. Alright, so we just want to be careful here and then run. Alright, here we go. It's the bubbles. You may notice those Gutsman blocks in the middle there. The bubbles are weak to the Gutsman blocks, but there are only 4 of them. So I'm going to wait till I've cleared out half of the bubbles before I start using them, because the bubbles are going to get faster and faster as this fight goes on. It took me a long time to realize that the best place to stand is just this left corner here, because if you try to jump and you go end up in the other spots, then a lot of the time you just wind up running right into them. Alright, there's only a couple left. Let's go crazy. There we go. That fight just gets very fast towards the end, and it's easy to panic and mess up your block shots. I don't think I've ever failed that fight. I can't remember ever losing there, but I've come close a few times, and if you use up the blocks, they don't come back next time around, so that could make things dicey. Don't forget, this is also the only Mega Man game that doesn't have energy tanks. So you gotta lump it, or you gotta cheat, basically. That was so close. That was gonna be death number 3 right there. Whew. Threading the needle on that one. Alright. So here is our energy refill, and it's a good thing I still have some guts, man. You know what? I'm gonna use the magnet beam to get up there. Oh, you know what? There's actually no point in doing this because there's a complete full refill of all weapon energy coming up. So forget it. We're just gonna blaze through here. Old Mike would have used the elect beam to take out every one of these turrets systematically. New Mike ain't give a fig. Alright, so this is going to just be annoying. I don't know if I'm going to make it here in time. Looks like I'm alright. This platform, I think, is on a universal timer, so if you show up here at the wrong time, then you see it just leaving you, and you're kind of stuck waiting for it to come back. Alright, so this is the Yashichi, which is the, I don't know if it's a Capcom symbol or a Japanese symbol, but it's in a couple of their old games, and it gives you a full refill of stuff. I'm trying to remember now what the order of these fights is. My son could tell you. I've forgotten. Yeah, Bomb Man first. Okay. So this is actually really annoying. Bomb Man is more dangerous here than in his own room just because you're kind of trapped in the corner there when you start. Oh, okay. So, this is a tricky little spot because we have to beat Bomb Man, Fireman, Iceman, and Electman. Sorry, and Gutsman all in a row. This is not the right weapon. With no health recharge ever. And that's tricky because it's hard to avoid Fireman shots like you see. Iceman's not going to be too much of a threat. I can probably Electro Zap him before anything really bad happens. Because like I said, he only takes 3 shots. I don't want to get hit by those, so let's just run. Bye. And then Gutsman, so should be alright. So like I said, if you're on the same level as Gutsman, just let him shake your world when he lands, because the timing works out pretty well that you can then just jump right after that and you'll avoid his blocks. But when he gets close to you, all bets are off. Thankfully, he takes double damage from the Buster. Alright, we did it. Last boss. I don't know how long I've been playing this game, but not very long. So, for the last boss... Oh, that's right, I got the Yashichi, so all my stuff is full. You need fire and electricity. I am not optimistic enough to think that I'll beat him with half health, though. So, whatever. We'll take one more death, and then we should be done. Here comes the flying saucer, and here's Dr. Wily's machine. Of course, it's got 2 forms. Why would it not have 2 forms? This is a Mega Man game. The fire does a really good job on that first form. Now, the problem is that until his ship is finished disintegrating, I can't switch weapons, and I need electricity to take care of that thing. Alright, let's just get here. That's another death there, but I think if all goes well, that's going to be our last. Alright, let's see what we can do. Again, no energy tanks in this game. Young Mike, and occasionally Old Mike, has used the pause trick on the second half of this fight just to make sure that I took out the ship by landing multiple hits. Oops, again, I really want to change for electricity. The fact of the matter is, the electric beam already hits twice every time you fire it, so if you're in decent shape and you just pay a little bit of attention to Dr. Wily's shots, you don't gain much by using the pause trick. So, like, I can beat him almost any time I come in here with full health now. Gets a little claustrophobic when he comes up on this side of the screen. Thankfully, the immense slowdown makes it easier to avoid his shots. There we go! That is our first play completed, and I gotta say, I think that was pretty good. 3 deaths and 5 hot jams over the course of this game, but there's one more coming up, so let's not count our chickens before they've hatched. So, do I have a time estimate on that? I've been streaming for 40 minutes. 40 minutes? Wow. That may actually be a personal best for me, finishing this game in under 40 minutes. Yeah, I cheated to beat the Yellow Devil. If you haven't, then, like, prove it to me. This is it. Here's our final jam. Fun fact, the extremely iconic music at the introduction of Mega Man 2 is also the end credits music from Mega Man 1. I played these games for like 20 years before I realized that, and then I had one of those like mind explode kind of moments when I put all the pieces together. Kind of like when I realized that Aeris's theme in Final Fantasy VII is a riff on the opera aria from Final Fantasy VI. Kind of stewed in my head for a little while. And now it's credits time. I really like this song, actually. You don't hear this part in Mega Man 2, but I think it's pretty good. It's also fun to watch the credits in these old NES games, because this was in the era when Japanese companies were all afraid that they were going to get talent sniped by people, and so they forced all their people to use pseudonyms, like Inaf King there, who's Keiji Inafune. I don't know who AK is, and to my great shame, I also don't know who Fishman is, who I think shows up in this game's credits, but if not here, then in most of the other Mega Man games. This is Manami Matsume, who has kind of made a real comeback for herself in the last few years, doing music for all sorts of indie-styled retro games. Yuki-chan's Papa, of course, another classic. And there's Dr. Light and Roll, presented by Capcom USA, comma. I also love that in this era they had to pretend that they were American companies, so it was always Capcom USA who made the games. I can't remember how far into the series you have to get before that stops being the case. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching with me. I hope that was worth your time, and I think I'm going to do some more of these, namely Mega Man 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then we'll see for the rest of them after that. So, I don't have a sign-off or anything. I'll see you next time when we do a stream or a video. Bye.